This next ad break is brought to you by Slambox, Australia's best value basketball repacks. Visit www.slambox.com.au to check out the latest series or join the Facebook page, DJ's Trading Cards, and message David directly. Slambox features big-name autographs including Giannis, Zion, LaMelo, Banchero, Chet, Ja, Tatum, and more. Super short prints, case hits from a variety of different products including National Treasures, Flawless, Noir, Immaculate, Impeccable, and more. Slambox has different tiered product levels to cater for all budget levels and collector preferences. Thank you, Slambox, for your support.
Welcome everybody to episode 123 of the You Can't Comp This NBA Trading Card Podcast. We're your host, Adam, Amy, and Russell Gibson. Happy New Year, Russ! It's
Happy New Year. I didn't even say it to you offline. Sorry, mate.
It's 2024. It would have been funnier if we had done this yesterday because it would have been like the overlap. It would have been 2024 here and 2023 there.
Yeah.
Like talking from the past to
too lazy yesterday.
It'd be like a sci-fi episode.
Getting my mind into a loop right now.
That's it. It'd be like, I'm talking to you from the future. We're back. It's 2024, a new year. I haven't joined a gym. I'm not joining a gym. So
have you not joined a gym? It's free join up at the moment, surely.
It's surely, and then they signed you up to a direct debit. You cancel in November of the year, and then join back again in January, and go all of 3 times. I feel like is the I don't know. That's the New Year, the New Year's resolution membership.
They should write up a package exactly for that.
Yeah, it's the special New Year deal, which is even harder to cancel because we know you're going to want to cancel it. High cancellation fees. But yes, all right, we're here. We made it to another year. How was your New Year's? Mine was pretty low key, pretty chill. We made it through safely.
Look, to be honest, it was really chilled. The highlight of our day was that it snowed, so we built a snowman and we did some snowball throwing, and then
nice.
The highlight of our evening though was just watching TV and just going to bed. But it was very 2 kids, you know what I mean? It's very low key.
Yep. Totally understand that. Awesome. A little bit's been happening in the NBA.
Yeah, let's get to NBA. That's far more interesting than my lack of social life ads.
Yeah, I feel like our lack of party stories. It's probably worth talking about what's going on in the NBA. We have a trade, don't we? Do we want to open with the trade?
So I think the best way to summarize this trade is offense for defense. So Toronto Raptors needed offense in the worst probably way possible, and frankly, we've spoken about this on the show in the last few weeks. And then Tom Thibodeau, who's probably, I actually don't know his exact position in the power struggle or the power structure in New York, but I'm sure he has a very big say in, what goes on. But I'm praying for, every New York fan that he doesn't have the final say on every trade. But I feel like
to hope not.
Tom Thibodeau, he's just been wearing down, the general manager or whoever, has the executive say on the trades, and he's basically traded offense for defense. So, look, I actually think the fun thing about this trade, we probably should run through what it was. So New York is sending away RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickley, and a Pistons 24 second-round pick. And then Toronto is sending back OG Anunoby, Precious Achiuwa, and Malachi Flynn. So, the obvious thing, and I think this actually came up in the comments from one of our own listeners, is who's going to replace basically, the 50 points of offense that they're losing with RJ Barrett and Quickley, because Quickley's actually scoring a decent amount of points off the bench this year.
He's actually not too shabby. Although, I don't know, New York's always surprised me with the moves they make.
The thing that I like about this trade the most, I feel like this actually has helped both teams because Toronto needs RJ Barrett more than they need Precious Achiuwa and OG Anunoby, and I feel like the Knicks need OG so much more than what they need RJ Barrett. And I
agreed.
The part that I'm a little bit unclear about though is why would you give up on someone like RJ Barrett at this point in their career? Because you've just given them like pretty large contract, but not something that is creating burden on your team. Like the Evan Fournier contract, that's what's creating burden financially on the Knicks. Like definitely not RJ Barrett. And then he was definitely making progress every year. He's becoming a more efficient player. And actually, when the ball's in his hands, in some ways, I probably like that more than Randall. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
that's the part.
although Randall's
That's the part
been
where I'm a bit confused about, to be honest. I know you're a big Randall fan, but in my mind, I would probably try and move Randall before I'd move Barrett.
Yeah, look, I think Randall's definitely a consideration as far as pieces to move, but he seems to do enough for the team, Randall, if that makes sense. Like, he comes up big for the Knicks, so I don't think they want to get rid of him. I think he's a very New York. I frankly think he's a very New York player.
I think that's actually the reason why. I actually think they wanted to get rid of RJ Barrett. And that's probably where I'm going. I'm sort of almost waiting
Mm,
to hear, the rumblings or, he didn't do this or he didn't do that and,
no,
the sort of
not
the
even that. I was
back end
just
sort of Twitter stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
that's where
I
I'm
think
at
this
with
just he
RJ
doesn't
Barrett.
fit. I think they just didn't want him.
I think for the Raptors, this is an absolute no-brainer. It just eases the logjam of all that sort of very similar talent that they had of, Spicy P, Scotty Barnes, OG. That was just too much of the same thing. And I think moving it for that, and also too, they get a little bit of youth, and I think that's really important
Yeah, for
because,
the Raptors, it is important.
yeah, for the trajectory of that team, like they're not really trying to win right now. I think they are looking ahead.
Yep,
Scotty Barnes is not going to be in his prime for another 3 years, and I think Barrett probably, fits in together with that a little bit better. So the
yep.
conspiracy theorists out there are saying, well, this is about selling jerseys. So RJ Barrett's Canadian, he goes to Toronto. That's a really big deal. And
That makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
We've got it in the comments. Anthony Mill just ordered my Raptors RJ Barrett jersey.
well, Fanatics will have that to you in 2 days, mate. Don't stress too much about
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
don't you worry.
So look, I think what we should probably do now is, do an actual hobby breakdown of this because I think
Mm.
that's what we're really here for. And I've got a few thoughts about this, but I think I'd like to hear your thoughts first, mate, because I've had the floor for quite a long time.
That's all right. So who are we going to break down first?
You do whoever you want, man, because I've got like a little bit of a raft.
You've got a raft. Let's get onto the ladder. Let's get onto the ladder.
Because I don't think the hobby impacts are just for the people that are in the trade.
I agree. I agree that the changes in the team are going to impact everybody. Sorry, I've just brought up OG Anunoby's silver. I mean, we're not talking big bucks at the moment, but all right, there's been bugger all movement in the last few months. But OG Anunoby's silver PSA 10 is pretty much a steady commodity at $50. It's 50 US by the look of it. Like it spikes and a few drops, but it seems to just be over 1 year, the $50 mark. Wow, okay. 2 years. Oh, but that's the crazy the crazy time.
Really
180
hard
US.
to factor that into your speculation, isn't it? Moving
Yeah,
forward.
yeah. If you go past, say, April 2022, which is where it sort of come down, I think that's the end of the spike, right? April, May 2022. So anything after that season is pretty.
I think the rational comp for OG is Jalen Brown, where it's someone who you think has got a reasonable amount of talent, but the price doesn't match the equation.
Mm,
You know
mm.
what I mean?
I
So
like
you're like,
I do like the talent the comparison because
if you look at price and you think this should be a little bit higher than what it is. So I think if
yeah,
you are someone who's loaded up on OG, this is the type of thing that you're waiting for. You're like, this guy's got talent. This guy just needs to get onto a national stage, to people to get an eye on him. So I think him going to New York, in
mm,
terms of the hobby winner here, like I think the hobby winner here is OG Anunoby. I think that there's no further
correct.
conversation we need to have, right? Like that's done and dusted.
That just seems
So
obvious to me because its last sold price was like $58. I'm like, is a $50 card? It's probably $100 card, but that's what you get for living in Toronto.
yeah, definitely. But I got to tell you, in my mind, the biggest winner here is Jalen Brunson because if you think about just the pure offensive numbers, right? So
Mm-hmm.
Barrett goes, let's just say that's 25 possessions a game in terms of
Yep.
dribble drives, in terms of shots taken, the assists. He'll do a couple of assists a game, constant turnovers, and essentially that's now going to be either in Brunson fans, which I think is going to be the big winner in terms of usage rate here. Of
Mm.
course, your boy Randall, and then
Unless Randall's got
and then
something to say about it.
yeah, Randall will have a few more touches, I think, no doubt. And then
Yeah.
of course OG's going to get some touches too. They're not going to bring this kid in and not play him. Like I think I got to
For
be honest with you,
sure.
man. I think Tibbs is going to play this kid 35 to 38 minutes a game like this. In terms
Tibbs
of
plays all his boys to
what
death.
he does, but I think there's some people that he just has that really sort of special connection with. And my sort
Mm.
of gut feeling with OG is that I think those two are going to click together in a really powerful way. Is probably the best way to say it. To be honest, I think those two are made for each other. So I think, yeah,
Yeah.
hobby wise for me, actually Brunton is probably the one where I'm a little bit disappointed with is Precious because I've sort of got a low key um, third, rate PC, of this guy, hoping for him to pop up. I think the problem in New York is they've already got two pretty decent. You could even argue three pretty decent centers there. So
Mm.
their starting center at the moment's injured. Then they've got Hartenstein, and then the other guy they've got Jericho Sims, who's like a big body and he's been playing, well enough that he's probably going to get say 12 minutes a game. So I think the high end, output of Precious is what going to be 8 minutes a game. But if he can play the four, which is not out of the question when it comes to someone like Thibodeau playing big lineups, maybe he'll do all right. But that's the one I'm probably, the most worried about, in this equation here. The one who I think we should be low key speculating on though is Emmanuel Quickly because coming out of college, he had
Yeah.
all the talent in the world. He didn't get a lot of run in college and then, went straight to the pros. So it was a little bit of a speculative draft pick. I think the issue is, again, everything sort of comes back to Tibbs, doesn't it? I don't think he was ever going to get the run in New York under Tibbs. And so if you talk about, taking the shackles off somebody and letting them play, I think the probability and the
Mm.
possibility for that in Toronto is definitely there. So if he does have the talent and he's got the NBA spit, I think you're going to see it. It's basically going to be now or never. So I think if you're actually going to be betting on someone, especially for a low end sort of prospect, Quickly is
You
the one
reckon
that's probably
Quickly?
catching.
The
Yeah, it's
only
the one
the
that's
only
catching
thing
my
I
eye the
say
most.
hobby wise is if a player goes um to Toronto, like is that their hobby value just going like taking
Hobby
the long way
death.
the long way to the toilet? Like is it just a slow death? Is it burning out? Is it and that's no offense to like I don't understand hobby wise. There's a whole country for one team. So it shocks me that there's such a low market hobby wise for players going to the Raptors.
Yes, I think you are right to a degree, but I'd also say too, people still watch the NBA. They watch the Toronto Raptors play. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not the only,
It's not,
and
yeah.
it's not only Toronto people who are buying Toronto cards. The other thing too is he's actually in a New York uniform as a rookie card for Quickly. So I think, look, maybe I'm being too optimistic about this, but at the same time too, I think
Look. At the
in
moment,
terms of
we're not
someone's
talking. We're not talking $100 silver prisms. Like we're like the people have picked him up for as little as 99 cents. The silver prism in the last few months, they've also paid up to what last sold for $16.58 for a raw silver prism.
Yeah, so if you look at his 3 month data, he's actually up 270%. So even
Mm-hmm.
before this trade, people would, definitely getting on board with this kid. Look, but I think the part that, can't be ignored, if he goes out and averages 18 points and say 8 assists, I think that is going to get him some attention. I think that's probably, where I'm leaning to
That's
with all
yeah,
this.
that's definitely a consideration. I think he'll get some attention, um, but I definitely don't think the spotlight will be on him in the same way as say OG coming to New York.
Definitely not.
And I
No,
think it's the
definitely not.
opposite. Yeah. Opposite levels of
Well,
attention.
final thoughts before we start talking about Ja Morant.
What a trade though. Like it's nice to see these potential win-win trades happening in the league. I'm
It's definitely
definitely
one of the better trades we've seen for a while.
yeah. I don't think Yeah, I don't think it's of the level of the Sabonis Haliburton trade, but
Yeah.
it seems like it's positive for both teams. Definitely seems positive for both teams. Now you just said a name that excites me a little.
Ja Morant is back.
He's
There is
back, all
no doubt
right.
about this. He's looking fantastic. He's playing hard. Everything in mind, all the boxes are being ticked for me. So this is a really quick check-in.
Yep.
I just wanted to talk about a couple of the game lines that he's had. So this was against the Pelicans, 40 minutes, 31 points, only 1 of 7 from three. I mean, that can be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
4 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks.
Yep.
Another game against the Atlanta Hawks, probably not quite as good in terms of the plus minus these couple of games that I've been talking about, but still 30 points, 1 of 3 from three, 6 rebounds, 11 assists. These are all
It's
NBA numbers, even though he won't be eligible for the All NBA this year.
true. I think it's funny.
There,
I think it's funny. So I'm just gonna point this out that
talk to me.
after Boxing Day, he'd been back for 3 games and has more wins on the board than Detroit.
Leave Detroit alone.
But it's just good to see him back. It's good to see him balling out his. It's good to see. It's actually. I hope he's learned his lesson. His basketball game hasn't suffered by the look of it at all.
His team has paid a very steep price for him being away, and they did not handle his absence well at all. They've been 4-2 since he came back.
Mm-hmm.
Saucy from Double Coverage also likes to do, I think they're called Saucy Picks or something like this. He was saying that a good bet at the moment is to bet that the Grizzlies will get to the playoffs. We were talking about this on the pod before I saw Saucy's little bit on that. I'm not too sure that's a given that they're going to get back in. The West is just
I don't think it's a given, but I don't see it as impossible.
It's just a murderer's row. Definitely not impossible, but it's just the West is so deep, man.
It is very deep, but I think the Grizzlies look a lot more like the Grizzlies with Ja Morant there. Do you know what I mean? Like they didn't even they I don't know. They'd lost their identity without Ja there and with all these injuries and it seems like he's rejuvenated their list. You know what I mean? Like he's given them that belief, and that's why I mean that's what a leader does. So I think it's good. It's a positive. Yes, it's a ballsy bet, but I don't know. I wouldn't write that off. The Grizzlies making the play-in, maybe frightening a couple of teams. Who knows?
Hard value wise, his silver PSA 10 last sold for $565 in the last 3 months. That's up 36%. I think that people who have ridden out this episode of Ja Morant's career, I think they're going to be okay. I think he's going to be totally fine. The interesting thing, if you go back to 1 year though, that was trading at pretty regularly at $1,000.
Yep.
So he has had a steep decrease in the first 6 months of the last 12 months. I'm sure there's a more ergonomic way to say what I just said, but you can also see a very steady sort of trickle upwards here.
Yep.
So it's currently trading at $560. Keeping in mind it's been around $1,000. Where are you at with this card, man? Is this a buy, a hold, or a sell for you?
Looking at the look
right
at the
now, after what you've just seen, he's back.
Oh,
he's
it's
healthy,
a buy.
He's playing
It's
well.
a buy. He's not a $500 player. Like, you know how we say we've got these categories? He's much higher. He's the number one guy in Memphis, and his value doesn't reflect that currently.
So I was in the Nike shop in Chicago this week, and on the first floor, which is sort of where they put the pictures of LeBron James and Jordan, there was also a very large stand for Ja Morant.
Oh wow!
Actually, let me rephrase it. A very large section for Ja Morant. So his popularity is ongoing. I don't think that. Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about.
For better use of a term, he hasn't been cancelled. He's very
and
much
his
still back and in
character,
the spotlight. Yeah.
and his character survived this. And I think if we link that back to sort of the, again, card wise and card hobby stuff, the Frugia factor, I think all of that is still there. So I think,
Yeah.
look, probably my problem is the pop on this though. So pop on
1488. Is
this,
that what was that what I read?
1,588, and I think keeping in mind the conversation we had with Ryan when he came on from GenRate, and he was talking about putting together population reports, not just across like PSA, BGS, SGC. So I'm not going to sit here and add them all up, but like that very easily could go to 3,000.
Yeah.
That's probably the only thing, and
I
that's
think
what sort of makes me
the
wonder
pop
if
count is gonna put a ceiling on it.
I wonder if the ceiling is around that sort of 650, 700. Like realistically, do you know what I mean? Like, because if you had a card number to 3,000, would you be racing out to spend $1,000 on it?
That's a really good point. That's a really good point.
That's the only thing that's goes through my head with this.
Yeah,
And full credit to Ryan for that too, because he really the genesis of that idea.
Sure. Well, that's like the pop count's always been one that sort of sits with me, but it's how does it limit? What impact does it have? And because I see Morant as one of those top 5 MVP candidate level players, where and that's his impact on the league at like year to year. Obviously, that's not happening this year, and even to impact the MVP race at all would take quite a phenomenal run.
I don't think he's eligible because of the number of
Because of
games
the number of games. I think they specified with that. Yeah. But future wise, those players don't sit around that $500 to $700 mark there. That's why I was shocked. Was it last week we were talking about Tatum? I think Tatum is criminally underpriced. Same as Brown. But I don't think we're looking at, maybe they're correctly priced at present, but I just feel their future value is a bit higher than that. I don't know.
At least with Tatum, there's what, a third or half of the pop, right?
It's 800 or something. Like it's half the population of this. So yeah, I don't know. That pop count, look, maybe that's what's going to hold Zion, Ja, Luka. Yeah, there is a lot of them out there. So maybe we should be looking at numbered stuff for the value in Ja Morant. Blue Ice.
Numbered on-card orders.
Wow.
Talk to me.
Anyone got a Blue Ice to 199 of Ja Morant? Well, this card hasn't been sold since April 2022, but it was last sold for 20, which is a crazy period, right?
Last sold. What did it sell for?
22,800. Card ladder value, which is where I'll actually read this because the pop count is 6, number to 199. Card ladder value 8,640.
Interesting.
Now, I think that's a good adjustment because April 2022, I was just talking before about that January to April bit being the final stage of the spike before things corrected. And that's when it sold. So I think 8,000 for that card makes sense. But look at that pop count. 6.
That's the gold standard, isn't it?
Well, there we go. BGS 9.5, which is obviously not the same. Last sold for 1675 in June 2023.
Yeah, right.
Pop count of 8.
Okay. I think that's a very shrewd purchase, actually.
PSA 8.
Send it off to PSA.
Hasn't sold for a while. There's not many of the Blue Ice ones that have gone around. Interesting.
That is, yeah. So I have continued on it.
Yep. This was a quick check-in with Ja Morant, so let's...
I have continued going around to a couple more basketball stores. I have gone to a couple more retail shops. I found a well-stocked Target, and I picked up this box called a Championship Collection. So this is a little bit of a holiday story. The comparison to, help you understand it really easily, it's like a blaster version of the Bangman box. So it costs $20 US.
Yeah.
It said that it came with 2 hobby packs, 5 factory sealed packs, and then 15 cards, which literally came in a box that I would describe as like a Matchbox card box, but made for cards. It was really weird. And
I love America.
15 cards, including one game used or autographed card. So I thought for $20, why not
Yeah.
give it a go? So I did get a Don Ross packet, but it was actually retail. It wasn't a hobby. And then I got the university cards, which were really popular this year with Wembanyama, but it was the year before, like with Chet Holmgren in it. And then the other packets I got were these cards that I've never heard of in my entire life before. So
Were they
they're
basketball?
called, they were basketball. They were called Pro Picks 21-22 Premier Basketball, where it's like a private company, and they actually had agreements with all the players that were in the checklist. So Chet was there, Josh Giddey was there, Davion Mitchell was there, Benedict Mathurin was there. So I got like a few kind of cool cards, but the best I got was
Interesting.
like a green parallel. There's no autographs or anything like that. Look, the patch that I got out of the 15 random lot was a Wally. I can't even say this guy's name. Sizerback. It's when he
Yes.
played for Boston, so I got a Boston patch. So look,
Wow.
for $20, it was definitely a fun rip, but at the same time, I
It
probably wouldn't do it
sounds like
again.
a well spent $20 entertainment value.
It sounds like something you'd get out of a show bag.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good
If you
that's a
went
good
to
description.
the Royal Show and then you picked up some, lousy show bag for
Any
$20
of the
and that's what
people
came in it.
organising the Royal Melbourne show for 2024, I hope you're listening.
Hook up with Championship Collection.
That's it.
Yeah.
We will give you a shout out as well when we go to get the show bags. I'll buy the show bag for sure.
I think the
NBA
natural
collector's show
segue
bag.
here is the hobby hangout show bag.
That's it.
Alrighty, so huge shout out to Amir for his ongoing support to the show. His product is called the Bangman. He does a customs repack, which is essentially like the Championship Collection hobby box, but a much
The
better.
premium edition of the we must
The
say.
diamond, the diamond edition, yeah. So
Yeah.
he has a gold edition for $5.49. It contains 8 hobby packs,
Yep.
which could be Optic, Select, Prism, Mosaic, and there's 2 years of each that are sort of mixed into that, but they're all hobby packets. That's the really big thing
Yep.
to say. Then you've got the silver edition for $2.69. So that's got Flux, Revo, Mosaic, Select, Elite, and Illusions, and again, all hobby packets through that. So if you're looking to do your own rip, if you're looking to do something with a bit more variation and a bit more potential for some value in there because of that, obviously there's a bit of randomization or luck with that.
Yeah, of course.
Check out the Bangman. He's found on Facebook. He's found on Instagram. Just directly DM Amir. He will hook you up. He's had a couple of really big pulls. He recently pulled a Chet Holmgren number to 10. So the gold Prism rookie card of that. So whoever
Yeah, I
did
saw
get
that.
that, congratulations. That's a
That was
life
massive.
changing card. That's the reason why we root pucks, to get stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's definitely it's
congrats. Yeah. I do want to talk about your favorite son, Luka Doncic's latest gift to the Dallas Mavericks was a deep three-pointer on Christmas night that pushed him past 10,000 career points. Doncic
he's
reached the milestone against the Phoenix Suns
he's going well.
in his 358th career game, which ties Hall of Famer Bob McAdoo for the 7th fewest games to reach 10,000 points. Adam, I know you've been very salty about this young man. Where are you sitting with Luka now after this season?
I'm quiet on the Luka front. I'm actually no. I'm pleasantly surprised. Like I don't wish the man poorly. I just think it's the fans that are singing his praises unnecessarily. He's putting up incredible numbers. He's putting
His
up
numbers are just like video game stuff. Yeah.
sure, but and this is where obviously in the regular season there's nothing you can do about this. The number of championships he's currently equal with I don't know Wemby. He's currently equal with Ja Morant. He's currently equal with Jason Tatum. He's currently equal with. Do you know what I'm getting at, right? Like he hasn't won a
Yeah,
championship.
no, definitely. Yeah. It's all
But
future proof, these numbers, yeah.
but he is
No, so
putting
it's
up.
not future-proof, these numbers.
Yeah, but he's putting up amazing numbers. He's putting his hat in the ring, so to speak. Like, he's in the MVP discussion. And so he should be. I think Luka is, like, I give the man a lot of grief, but he's definitely one of the best talents in the league. I've no doubt of this. That said, hobby value wise, he's still not a buy for me. I don't know if I've got any justification. Sorry, I'll rephrase that. I'm looking at his silver PSA 10, and I cannot find a reason that I would spend $1,250, which is his current sold price, for a silver prism off one of the 2,266 people that have one.
The one part of my brain says he's the safest buy in the hobby at the moment in terms of contemporary players. The other part of my brain says what you just said then. At $1,200 with a pop of 2,200, it's just a bit of a stay away. The really interesting thing for me is, so if you zoom out to 1 year of sales, he's down 42%. And this is where I sit with this guy. Is he going to trend back upwards, or is he going to continue to trend downwards? And that's probably the thing where...
Can I give you my comp on him? My player comp?
Yeah, sure.
Tatum.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So
Tatum's like $800. Tatum's like a $700 to $800 card at the moment, with a pop count a third of this. And I think they're as far as their performances go, Luka's probably a little bit ahead of Tatum, but they're in the same bracket.
Personal numbers from Luka, I would actually say he's probably 2 or 3 steps ahead of Tatum, whereas for team success, Tatum is 3 or 4 steps ahead of Luka, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the trade-off. But
I put them in the same bracket as far as if they were to share a card bracket. I feel like that, because he's the number one guy in Boston. And he's the number one guy in Dallas. Like, the number one guy in Boston is, as you well know, is a big franchise. So he's in the spotlight. He's still at that $700 to $800 mark, which baffles me.
Yeah, I don't think... Yeah. Look, I personally think the reason why Doncic is sitting higher is because of his numbers. I think the stuff that he's done is statistically amazing. I think you can't look past that. I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
I think where I'm trying to lead this conversation from my own sort of perspective is that the point you made before about his silver PSA 10 is very valid. I still stand by what I said, is he's the best buy in the contemporary NBA at the moment. And what I want to say specifically about this is he's got an exclusive deal with Panini. So we can't even say the writing's on the wall anymore. The story's been written. Fanatics is taking over. It's even possible they're going to take over sooner. So what's going to happen to Luka autographs moving forward? So the easy way for current collectors to think about this is LeBron James. We haven't seen LeBron autos for the last 20 years, right?
Yeah.
Is that what's going to happen to Luka autos moving into Fanatics era? Because you can't tell me that Panini and Fanatics are going to be drinking beers and sharing exclusive plays. Like, the way that Fanatics have gone about things has been frankly abrasive, and I don't see there's going to be any, handshake deals being done. So that's the type of hobby fallout that I would, expect to happen. So where I'm leading with this is that currently you can probably get a Luka auto sticker of, say, around 800 on card for maybe 1,000 to 1,200. And this is the Matthew Yuga rule of, was Giannis autographs the best buy at $1,000 that you could have done 12 months ago? So is Luka Doncic on-card autograph the best current buy in the hobby market when we know in the next 2 years there's going to be none?
Yeah, that's a really good that's a really good way to frame it.
Yeah, and I think let's just say you don't subscribe to my theory about autographs, because I'm also going through a big autograph phase at the moment. And that's fine, but find other Luka cards that are undervalued, that have got that sort of potential to go up. Because we talk about silver rookies all the time, and I think that's probably one of the downfalls of our show. But we're not talking about silver rookies in particular. We're just using that to measure the market.
It's a baseline, right?
I think Yeah, and it's such an easy baseline because there's so many data points. So I think
it's the market baseline. I think we've talked at length with various guests as well, and it's just like it's the baseline standard because that's the rookie. It's the equivalent of the tops. It's like if we're talking about LeBron, we're talking about Kobe, we're talking about other like older players. It's the tops one.
so.
But
That's
you're right.
fine. Move on from that, and yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at with Luca at the moment, and I think
Well, it's interesting. I think Luca.
is so
I
good at
think
the
you're right.
moment.
He's a commodity. It doesn't need to be a rookie card with Luca. You can flip Luca, like buy and sell. Like he is a hot trading card, like just a player. Does he have a Kaboom?
I think a couple actually.
I'm like I not that I have a thing with Kabooms at all. Don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, he's got a couple.
You've got a Scottie Pippen Kaboom.
I do. There's a few Kabooms with Luca. 2018 and 19 Crown Royale. Luka Doncic. Yeah. Okay. In 2020. Okay. And they're all look. But for less than 2,000, you can get yourself a very nice Kaboom. Actually, for 1,000, you probably get one. Low pop count too. Anyway.
I've been very open about my theory about Kabooms. I think they're home run cards, irregardless. But I just think, in particular with Luca autographs, I think that's a separate.
You reckon Luka? Anything Luka with an autograph on card?
Look, sticker too is totally fine. Like if that's what your budget fits, that's
Sure.
nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine, right? But if you can get into that on card, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just trying to find.
I think he's going to be this generation's LeBron James in terms of hobby availability for autographs. I really do.
Yeah.
And I think,
I
frankly, I
have a
think it's
tendency
a
to
shame.
agree. It's interesting.
So I would like to ask you about your hobby New Year's resolutions.
My hobby New Year's resolutions.
Because it is the new year after all, and
It
it's the
is.
very Western tradition to make New Year's resolutions, but I'd rather make some hobby ones. Frankly, it's a bit more interesting.
I like that. I like look, I'm not much of a New Year's resolution kind of person. But as far as the hobby goes, I think expand not so much the collecting, but my appreciation for different types of cards is my focus this year. Expanding outside of the usual. And it's funny you made the thing about us. We do often defer to the Silver Prism. But I've always had that weird and wonderful quirk to my collecting, liking, random cards
Julius
for random
Randle.
reasons. Yeah. And Julius Randle. But yeah, like getting more cards that have stories behind them. So last year, I think my focus turned to I do want to slowly accumulate greats of the game, and I got a couple of pieces, which was really nice. As I said, the Kareem I got at the hobby hangout, like a couple of hobby hangouts ago, the NBA 75. I'm like, that's a nice Kareem. Like the Pippen, that was sort of a bucket list thing for me. I got my first Kaboom, but yeah, like just cards that have a nice story behind them. I don't know. I like stories, and I think having some cards with some stories to go along with them, there's some memories. Yeah, that's my New Year's resolution. Is I want better stories behind my cards.
So I've got a fair few incomplete set chases going on at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to sit down, work out what sets are incomplete, and then finish them off. I think sometimes my perspective on set chases is that as I see the cards come up, I'll pick them up on the cheap, be opportunistic. The issue with that is that then you're sort of just sitting there with all these, incomplete sets. And I actually came across a spreadsheet. I used to spreadsheet religiously, but I'm too lazy for it these days. And it's amazing how many sets I started and, it's sort of sitting there. So I think I definitely want to knock a few of those over.
Yep.
And then I've definitely been, so the last 12 months, I've probably bought more all-time great cards than actual Darren Fox cards. So I think for me, that's a really big shift. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've really enjoyed doing that this year and sort of just spending a bit more time learning about, more of the history of the game. I've really enjoyed that. So I picked up a Bob Cousy Timeless Moments, which came out of this year's 1-in-1.
Nice.
And I am just so, when you get those cards where you're just like, this is just so amazing and you're just so happy with the card.
Mm-hmm.
This definitely fits into that sort of bracket. I'm going to put it next to my Bill Russell. I think that's going to sit really nicely together. And I'm not even going to try and show you on the camera. Actually, yes, I will. It's not going to show out at all, but it's just an
That's an
incredible
incredible
card.
card.
Yeah. So the picture's in black and white. They've got the green Boston border going, and he signed it in this big fat silver. And he even signed over the numbering of the card too, which I'm sure that's going to tweak some people's OCD. But I just love it how it's just he just doesn't care. He's just signing that bad boy. So yeah.
Nice.
Thank you, Bob, for a beautiful signature on that.
That's a pretty card.
My last thing, I think I'm over this retail packet session that I went through.
You're over it.
I think so. I think
Back
this
to hobby.
year is going to be I'll stop. I'll open up what I've accumulated, but I think that's going to be it. I think I'm going to have to move on to something else. So
back to hobby packs.
Yeah, maybe
college.
I don't want to drop another ad for Bangman, but maybe something like that. Maybe that's the better idea.
Yeah.
And just sort of stretch out opening that over, a month or 2 months.
It's nice.
Just a thought. All right. Now, my other New Year's resolution is the perfect segue into our next segment. I want to spend more time learning about older cards. So I thought maybe we won't do this every week, but if we can do it once a week, I think that would be fantastic. The most traded man, and currently still is Michael Jordan in terms of, trading cards.
Mm-hmm.
I love the card ladder emails that come out and the card ladder Twitter stuff, and then they'll just show a card that's just popped 1 week, right? So I'd love to catch one of these cards that pop. So I don't know this is going to happen, but this is just one card that I found that I thought was really interesting. So this is the 1996 Michael Jordan Metal Shredders. It is a card that came out of Fleer Metal. PSA 10 population on this is 257. Mm-hmm. Now, the really interesting thing about this card, which is probably what got my attention a little bit, it's down a lot the last few months. So if you go to the last 3 months, it's actually down 29%. So look at the last 12 months of data, though. It's sold for nearly $400 at one point. It's currently trading at about $240. So I'm actually trying to pick one up for comps at the moment. Card ladder values it at 230. In terms of the pop count, 257. Like we've just spoken about cards that have got 10 times the pop on that. So
very interesting. Yeah. I have to say it's hard to bring relativity to it. That's my struggle.
I think with someone like Jordan, who is so well established, who is so readily traded, can you take losses on this stuff? Yeah, 100% you can. But
you're going to lose all your money on this stuff? Never.
I don't think so. All of it. I think you could lose a percentage of it, but at the same time, if you're buying it, when it's dipping down, look, I think you need to, buy it, get in and out of the market at the right time. Anyway, look, the other reason why I chose this card too is because there's a few different variations on it. There's the base, the metallized, the precious metal, that was the one we spoke about, the net rageous, the molten metal, and the metal shredders. Now, alrighty. So the metal shredders precious metal last sold for $11,000, nearly $12,000.
Sheesh! What the?
Pop on that is 11. So I think that's a significant part of it. It's really tricky to look at the cards when they're on eBay and then work it. The two cards we spoke about were very, very similar. I think the best way to do it, though, is to look at the Fleer logo, the Fleer metal logo. It's actually a different color. That was because when they're on eBay, even on ComC, it's a little bit the same, frankly. The colors in all of them, they all look completely different, but it's all the same card,
Wow. That's 11,000.
So I think what we'll do on socials this next week, we'll do 2 segments. I think we should do a segment where people can put forward cards for us to have a look at. We can do a small segment on them. And the other segment I think we should do this week is people's New Year's resolutions, because I think both of those
Hell yeah. Let's find out where people are moving in the hobby. Or what changes people are making, if they're not changing, if they're adjusting, they're refocusing. Yeah. I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's a great idea.
Thank you to our sponsor, EJ Cards, a small but motivated company specializing in cards. EJ Cards believe passionately in great bargains and excellent service, which is why they commit themselves to give you the best of both. If you're looking for something new, you're in the right place. EJ Cards strive to be industrious and innovative, offering customers something they want, putting their desires at the top of the priority list. Find EJ Cards at www.ejcards.com.au.
So going from Michael Jordan to somebody who wasn't drafted
Johnny
in the
Kilroy.
NBA draft and is not even in NBA hoops this year, Craig Porter Jr. So again, this is very much about Russell's holiday travel. So I went and caught the Cavs playing, and they were without a lot of their team. So Donovan Mitchell didn't play, Garland didn't play, and so basically that's opened up their backcourt. So Craig Porter started, and he played really, really well. So if you look at the link there, Adam, you go to the at Chicago game, they won 109-95. He played 39 minutes.
19, 7, and 8.
Rebounds, 8 assists. Yeah, 1 block, 1 steal, finished with 19 points. So
they've got the live box score at the moment versus Toronto. He's currently on 0 points, 1 rebound, and 0 assists. With a minus 11.
Minus 11 and a plus 11. Yeah, look, he's going to have games like that, as no doubts. But look, so I think the reason why we should talk about this kid is he can play basketball, really well. And the other name I'm going to thread into this conversation is also going to be our next segue is Tyrese Haliburton. In terms of his decision making, he just makes the right decisions. He doesn't make particularly flashy plays. The kid just knows how to play basketball. I'm a little bit perplexed.
He's 23 years
how
old.
He didn't get drafted. Look, that at the end of the day could be it.
From Wichita State.
But
yep.
Look, I really like him. I think
players can slip through the cracks still.
This could be the next Isaiah Joe, where he's not in Prism, he's not in Hoops, but he'll have a card pop up in Select, or he'll have a card pop up in Mosaic. And
yeah,
look, I don't think you guys should go out and heavily prospect this dude. Definitely not. But at the same time, you should keep an eye on him. I think he's going to be a fun one to to monitor, basically.
Yep. Yeah, I think there's definitely. I mean, you can see obviously, we've said today's game by any means is not looking great, but that Chicago game, there's some crazy good numbers. And then he has put it up. He's had a 12 rebound game. Do you know what I mean? Against Dallas, he played really well a few nights ago. And I think being a rookie, he'll get given opportunities, and if he takes them, and yes, his best game was against the Bulls, so he literally took the Bulls by the horns. And that's when he stepped right up. But yeah, it's interesting to see a player like this. And if they are limited in their rookie card, does that make it a cheeky prospect? Because if he does, I don't know, go on a good run and get a player of the month or something, right? I'm talking highlight reel after highlight, gets a starting spot. Does that create a bigger spike, the fact that it's hard to find his rookie?
Maybe Isaiah Joe is the right comp here, because actually Isaiah Joe has been relatively quite successful for someone of that sort of very low-end prospect level. So there's not been a heap of value, in this kid. But at the same time, Isaiah Joe's played some really good basketball when given the opportunity. So
yeah,
I see that too. Probably the interesting thing is, I think he would play better with Darius Garland than Donovan Mitchell, and Donovan Mitchell is back before Garland is. So this actually might be the end of his run, unfortunately. But at the same time too,
flash in the pan, he's a rookie, might end up on a different team, might get traded to the Knicks. Who knows? We
mentioned Tyrese Haliburton. We have to talk about this kid. Talk to us about your Haliburton take that you're telling me about off air.
So I read, I was either I think it was Instagram that pointed it out. There are two, until recently, there were only 2 players in NBA history that had back-to-back 20-point, 20-assist games. And those two players go by the name of Magic Johnson and John Stockton. There is now a third man on that list. And his name is Tyrese Haliburton. This kid is phenomenal.
I like that list so much too because those two are genuine point guards, and that's what this kid is. He is such an amazing floor general and floor leader and playmaker. I just love watching him play. So I was lucky enough to get...
I would go as far to say Chris Paul is about to lose his title as point guard.
Yeah, I think if Haliburton has to put another couple of years in, usurp him, but at the same time, I agree with you. I think that could definitely happen, particularly if he has more team success than what Chris Paul has.
True.
I was at the Bulls-Pacers game, and I was there in the flesh seeing it, and it was just an amazing game. To be honest, I didn't even know he had 20 assists, and I didn't know he had 20 points, but I just knew at the end of the game it was amazing. And it seems like this podcast, all roads are coming back to Tibbs today, but if you watch a game of the Pacers play, and then you watch a game of the Knicks play, like the future is the Indiana Pacers, and I feel like in some ways the past is the Knicks, to be perfectly honest with you. And look, and to a degree, even the Bulls, the way that the Bulls hunt mid-range shots versus the Pacers hunting three-point shots, my very basic NBA analysis of that game was the Pacers won because Tyrese Haliburton played so well, and the Pacers shot and made more three-pointers than the Bulls did.
Fair.
It's literally as simple as that.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's not a complicated game sometimes.
Yeah, and the Pacers are just so well coached, and I've got a bit of an obsession for coaching and particularly good coaching. I think Rick Carlisle's an interesting dude because of how controlling he was. Like he wouldn't even let Jason Kidd make play calls. That's like the reputation and where he came from, and now he's got this open court, high octane. 3-point shooting led by Tyrese Haliburton. You know what I mean? Like the transition for that guy to do that, And I love those stories too, Anyway, back to Haliburton. PSA 10, population's 252, last sold for $510. The last 1 year, he's up 25%. The last 6 months, he's up 45%.
45%.
And I think that's the other reason why I wanted to talk about Haliburton too, is because I think this is a very relevant contemporary hobby story. Like we can't have this podcast without talking about Haliburton. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like this is happening right now. Yeah.
We're witnessing this. He's having his historic year where he's putting himself on the map this year. Like, and he's doing it. He's doing the work. Is he a $500 card? Simple question. Ja Morant, same price point. Pop count is 6 times higher. Like, for me, even at 500 now, I think this kid is a buy.
So just being devil's advocate to what you just said, dude, I suspect there's a few more cards sitting at PSA currently being graded.
I don't think we're getting up to 1,600 anytime soon, though.
Yeah.
As far as the 10 count goes.
Yeah. But let's just say that the pop goes to 500.
Sure.
Because it very easily could go to 500 in the next 12 to 24 months, right?
Yeah. Easy.
And then how would you feel about that card being $600 or $650?
600, 650, and with a pop count of 500, I'm still good. Because his trajectory, and I'm going to go back to Luka and Tatum and these elite levels, I think this kid's pushing for that bracket. He's currently in the top 10 MVP voting. As he should be.
And he very well does. I think
he is, and yeah, sure, point guards aren't the most exciting when it comes to the highlight reel, but I don't know, his accolades so far this year, it's like so many assists without a turnover. You can see how well he reads the game. Yeah, I don't know. I still think he's a buy at that $500-$600 mark. $650 is probably my. I don't know. I see him as he has the potential, and I'm not saying that he's going to get there, but on the trajectory he's on, I see him, as long as the pop count stays, and I think Tatum's a good example here. The pop count on that's 800. So unless the pop count starts getting up above that 700 range, I think the $750 to $1,000 range is not out of the realm of possibility for Haliburton. It's a shame he plays in Indiana. Yeah.
I'm really torn on this one because I think that personality-wise, I think he's fine. I think he's an intelligent guy. I think behavior-wise, there's going to be no issues there. Look, I do think the Indiana situation is a problem. The other reality with Indiana too is that they haven't been known to spend Laker-level money on teams traditionally. And I think if you're being practical about this guy, championships do matter. And is he going to be limited in his championship capabilities by playing in Indiana? Because pick and pops with Jalen Smith, pick and pop with Miles Turner, setting up Buddy Hield for threes, that's only going to get you so far. And I think they're one of the best stories in the league this year. And I think Haliburton is really worthy of all the attention that he's getting. But does that mean that I think this card's going to go to $1,000? Like, no, I don't think that.
I think there needs to be something else.
Only thing that gives me a lot of positivity about this guy is the way that he plays basketball. And I need to sort of pass this out a little bit. So I don't watch a lot of soccer, but I do know that Lionel Messi is one of the most efficient players in terms of how many steps he takes and how much distance he covers on the floor to how much productivity he gets.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is something that's measured or if it's actually even out there. And if someone's listening at home could tell me about this and validate or invalidate my theory, I'd love to hear it. But I think he is the most efficient basketball player on the court in terms of how much movement he does and how much steps he takes as to how much activity he produces. Like, it's just amazing. It actually hurts my head when I watch him play. I'm just like, how does he do that without even breaking a sweat? And you watch him, he just walks off the court.
He's such a cerebral player. Like
he's not puffing. He doesn't even wipe his head off with a towel. It's just amazing. Anyway, that's the end of my Tyrese Haliburton froth.
He's I don't think it's the last we've heard of him this season.
He's kicked over to an hour. Should we do one more thing and then
let's
sign off? Why don't you pick the last one?
Well, I did touch on the Pistons when we talked about Ja Morant. Shall we? Shall we finish on a positive note?
Leave the Pistons alone.
Oh, come on. Fine. Where are you? You're in Chicago at the moment.
Chicago today and Washington tomorrow. So.
Well, if this is your last day in Chicago, let's touch on the Bulls then, shall we? And check in with them.
Let me give you my B grade or E grade Bulls analysis. They need to blow this team up in the worst possible way, and I think it's so frustrating watching that. I watched more Bulls, and I'm not going to watch any more Bulls this year. I'm done with them. Like, that's it. I really enjoyed going to the games. But yeah, I'm tapped out.
You got some footage of Benny the Bull.
I got some amazing footage of Benny the Bull. I think they need to trade DeMar DeRozan. Like, that's enough.
Where's he going, though? Who wants DeMar DeRozan?
Who cares? Just get rid of him. Look, Pat Williams was really, really promising to me. Like, you can see he's starting to work it out. There's some things that he does on the court sometimes that I'm like, why don't you just do that every third possession? Like, sometimes he'll take it to the basket really hard and he'll get there. Like, he's actually athletic. Defensively, I feel like he's growing into his body and he's doing some really good things defensively. Is he going to be a rim protector? I don't think so. And that's probably something the Bulls need to get behind him. If they can pair him with a rim protector, I think they'll be an amazing couple.
Yeah.
I think Coby White has flashes of brilliance.
Yep. I think that's reasonable. Yep.
I think actually at the moment he's a buy. He's so far depressed at the moment that there's not a lot of reason not to buy this kid. Now, the other one I've spoken about in the past is Ayo, and I'm going to double down on this. I really liked what I had to see.
Okay.
He was really good. But the one I want to add into the mix that I actually bought his vertical RPA yesterday, and it was 100% just due to me seeing a few of his games. I paid 21 USD for it, so I'm absolutely ecstatic about what I paid for this. Number to 49, on-card autograph. For some reason the material's not game worn, but I've just been panini'd, I think.
We've just been Hanini'd.
He plays with a lot of athleticism. Interestingly, he's listed as a point guard, but I more see him as like a shooting guard or as a small forward.
Okay.
He plays with high defensive intensity. He doesn't need the ball to be successful, and I think to some degrees playing with DeMar DeRozan, playing with Coby White, and then of course when Zach LaVine comes back, he'll need that. Look, I like it. I think in terms of a low-end prospect and, picking up some cheapy bargains, yeah, that's a really, again, another fun one. Probably, to be honest, better than Craig Porter. We just couldn't get over that they could have had Franz Wagner and Wendell Carter Jr. on that squad instead of Nikola Vucevic. I'm never going to get over this, to be honest. It's just...
No.
I'm not even a Bulls fan, and it's just like doing my head in.
It's just disappointing. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's very disappointing.
Did I do my Jalen Johnson take on the last show?
Jalen Johnson.
I'll just do this really quickly in case I've done it twice and I've forgotten. But when you went to your basketball game and then they walked in their warm-ups and you couldn't get over like how big they were? So when Coby walked into the room, were you like, oh my God.
Yeah. Like, look up and, yeah.
So when I saw LeBron walk in, it was years ago.
Mm-hmm.
When I saw this guy play, I can still, that's like burnt into my memory, So Jalen Johnson's not the same thing, but he's 50% there. He is huge.
Okay.
Like,
just giant.
Look, I'm probably going a little bit too far, but he's not a child. I think that's like, he's a baby-faced, guy. His numbers on the page don't look that impressive, but he's a big boy, and I think he's going to really grow into his body and cause people problems. Look, we've spoken about him in previous shows, but again, it's just like a bit like Ayo. I'm just doubling down on this kid. So
yeah,
Jalen Johnson, Ayo, they're my two big takeaways from
your time in Chicago, time in the Windy City. Yeah. So we're not. See, I thought we'd talk about where you are now, because if you're going to Washington next, I don't want to know. Actually, maybe you can just do it.
To a game.
Are you going to size up Jordan Poole for me? You don't need to go to a game to size up Jordan Poole.
I just want to see Jordan Poole. Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
If you just bump into Jordan Poole on the street, that would be hilarious. Or just say like, do you play basketball? A lot of people don't think you do. You're not very good anyway. Go back to San Fran.
I don't know if he'd be welcome back to San Francisco anymore. I think
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Yeah.
No. Those with Draymond being suspended, maybe he would be.
Yeah, that's fair. Fair.
Is that possible?
No, I don't think anyone wants him back.
So you said about people walking down the street and bumping into them. I actually saw Garrett Temple walking down the street in New York when the Raptors were in town.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I tried to wave at him, but he didn't see me. I was on a bus, so it was a little bit hard.
My best friend's wife shared an elevator with Kobe Bryant a long time ago.
His friend's wife. I mean, that's the...
She reminds me when we visit. She goes,
Bacon.
It's like that time that I was in the elevator with Kobe Bryant and I didn't know who he was, and then my husband showed me a photo and I went, yeah, that's the guy. The reaction was, Adam's going to be so jealous when he hears this.
And you were.
I was a little bit. Just a little bit. But yes. Anyway.
Thank you for a lovely podcast. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And
Happy New Year to everybody.
Happy New Year. Hope you had a lovely New Year's and it was safe.
Yes.
And we will see you soon.
We will see you soon. Please let us know your New Year's resolutions. We're going to put up some posts. We're going to...
Gym-related, by the way. We don't want to hear about games. We just want to hear about PCs.
PCs. It's all card-related stuff. I'm going to paint my house in basketball cards. That could be a resolution.
That would make it on the show.
Yeah, would definitely make it on the show. Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Bye-bye.